Islam, Islam. I am Sade Renee L, all rights reserved, and I'm back at it again with another video. And today I'm actually just going to be going over some common sense. I'm going to be going over the Commonwealth Handbook. This information is free to the public. You can Google it, go online. It's a handbook. Go ahead and research the information. I'm just going to actually read straight through it. And yeah, we'll do some studying together. I've actually been over it a few times myself, but I guess I decided to share it with everyone else, the studies. And with that being said, per usual, going to get straight to it. Thank you for your time, energy, and let's get to it. All right, so as you can see, once again, this is the Common Law Handbook. This is for jurors, sheriffs, bailiffs, and justices. And I'm actually not going to read the whole handbook. It's about 48 pages, and I might do a part 2 on the video, but for now, we're just going to go over a few important key factors. I'm going to go over some codes and a few quotes as well. All right, so again, we're going to get straight to it. And again, as I'm scrolling down to this information, I want to thank you guys all for the donations, all the donations that I have received. You are highly appreciated. Namaste, namaste, Malcolm Bay, TL, Wanel Bay Thomas, much appreciated. Thank you so much. Zubiri Bay, thank you so much for your donations. All right, and so it says right here, as you can read, it says governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Okay, that's it, from the Declaration of Independence. And it says men must be governed by God, or they will be ruled by tyrants. Facts. All right, so I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to read this section right here. Common law is common sense. I'll read that again. Common law is common sense. The question each jurist must ask themselves is there an injured party? There is a common law principle which states that for there to be a crime, there must be first a victim, corpus delicti. The state cannot be an injured party. So for example, it can't be the state of Nevada versus Sade Renee L. It has to be a living being. In absence of the victim, there can be no crime. This is what the grand jurist must discover. And again, if there's no victim, there's no crime. And if the injured party is, let's say, not to age, let's say, for example, it's a baby. Let's use that for an example. Then the jury must step in and represent the baby. But there still must be an injured party, and the juries must step in and represent. Because again, if that person can't speak for themselves, then they'll have 12 to 13 people speak for them. This is a fact, you can look it up. And again, just cross-reference me. Don't believe me? Let's just keep on reading. The Constitution of most of our states assert that all power is inherent in the people, that they may exercise it by themselves in all cases to which they think themselves competent, as in electing their functions, executive and legislative, and deciding by jury of themselves, both fact and law, in all judiciary cases in which any fact is involved. Or they may ask by representatives freely and equally chosen that it is their right and duty to be at all times armed to freedom of persons, freedom of religion, freedom of property, and freedom of the press. And that was an excerpt from Thomas Jefferson, a letter to John Cartwright. That was June 5th, 1824. And that is in the Library of Congress as well. So I'm actually going to scroll down. I want to go over some codes once again. And again, we're going to go over some Thomas Jefferson quotes, things of that nature as well. Eventually, I'll get to the Sheriff's Handbook. I also want to go over that in due time. All right, so we're going to stop here on page 7. It's United States Codes. Remedy of the people when rights are violated. Ding, 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 ding. We all need this because it's like they be like trying to bust you upside your head, and I'm tired of it. All right, so ignorance of the law is no excuse. So let's get it together, people. Let's get it together. Common sense is not that common no more, so we're gonna bring it back. Let's get a mind refresher. United States codes, remedy of the people when rights violated. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. I'll repeat, shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary is notwithstanding. They don't exist. It's null and void. All right, misprison of treason. That is USC 18-2382. Whoever having knowledge of treason conceals and does not make known the same to some judge is guilty of treason for contempt against the sovereign and shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 7 years or both. So if you know someone's doing wrong and they're acting in treason and you sit by and you just watch, then you can be in contempt as well, because you need to help your fellow brother and sister. That's even in the Bible. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as I love thyself. Facts. Moving along. Bribery, USC 18201. Bribery of any public official directly or indirectly gives offers or promises anything of value to any person to influence in any official act. Excuse me. So bribery, as we all know what that is, clearly stated, if you are trying to give somebody something to get something back and you're trying to bribe them, that's incorrect. Unlawful, don't do it. USC 18201. All right, conspiracy against rights. A lot of us are going through this right now, especially Moors. Stay strong, my brothers and sisters, we will prevail. This is USC 18241. If two or more persons conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in any state in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right, they shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years. So for example, when the policy enforcers, they roll up on you and they have 2-3 people in the vehicle, that's the mob, okay? And that's conspiracy against rights, because you guys are mobbing and tag teaming against me to conspire against my rights. Unlawful. Moving right along. Deprivation of rights, USC 18242. Whoever under color of any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom willfully subjects any person in any state the deprivation of any rights shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year. Again, deprivation of rights, if I'm telling you who I am, I'm a more American, I'm a foreign national, I'm sovereign, and you are still denationalizing me as a 14th Amendment citizen, slave, that's a deprivation of my rights, period. Okay, moving right along. Concealment. Concealment, USC 18271. Whoever willfully and unlawfully conceals, removes, mutilates, obliterates, or destroys, or attempts to do so, documents filed or deposited with any clerk or officer of any court shall be fined or imprisoned not more than 3 years or both. So that goes with the clerk of courts. You know, if you go down there with a valid document and they try not to file it, for example, that's concealment. They are obligated and they took an oath to file that paperwork, and it must be given the same full faith and credit. And we're going to link that up to clerks to file. Clerk to file, USC 1822076. Whoever being a clerk willfully refuses or neglects to make a forward any report, certificate, statement, or document as required by law shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both. Self-explanatory. Again, deprivation of rights, we have here USC 42-1983. USC 42-1983. USC 42-1983. I feel like sometimes if you put a little song to it, you retain it better. Facts. Every person who, under color of any statute, ordinance, regulation, custom, or uses of any state subjects or causes to be subjected any person within the jurisdiction thereof to deprivation of any rights, privileges, immunities secured by the Constitution and laws shall be liable to the party injured in an action at law. Period. Conspiracy to interfere. USC 42, 1985. If two or more persons in any states or territory conspire for the purpose of depriving either directly or indirectly any person's right, the party so injured or deprived may have an action for the recovery of damages against any one or more of the conspirators. And conspiracy to interfere, we all have a lot of that going on. If you are, for example, being gang stalked, when people try to do things to put you in a bad situation, you're conspiring to interfere. Or say, for example, you're trying to travel and someone's trying to pull you over. You're conspiring to interfere with my traveling, okay? Like, that's conspiracy. Know the law. Neglect to prevent. USC 42, 1986. Great year, I was born. Haha. Every person who having knowledge that any of the wrongs conspire to be done or about to be committed, or having power to prevent or aid in preventing the commission of the same, neglects or refuses so to do, if such wrongful act be committed, shall be liable to the party injured. And we could say that with the mob, the policy enforcers, you know, they might see that their partner's doing something, you know, incorrectly and unlawful, but they decide to keep a tight lip and not say nothing. That's incorrect. That's neglect to prevent. They can be fined for that. Got to speak up, y'all. Got to speak up. All right, and I'll say this, excuse me, I'll just continue reading. It says, all is mine. This is Job 41:11. Whatsoever is under the whole heaven is mine. Ezekiel 18:4. Behold, all souls are mine. As the soul of the Father, so also the soul of the Son is mine. Now that's Exodus 19:5. Now, therefore, if ye will obey my voice, indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all the people, for all the earth is mine. Psalms 50:12. If I were hungry, I would not tell thee, for the world is mine, and the fullness thereof. Powerful. Proverbs 8:14. Counsel is mine, and sound of wisdom. I am understanding, I have strength. I'm in Ra, so mote it be. All right, and I'll read this as follows. Government by consent. Our founders purposely placed the power of the grand jury in the Bill of Rights to make it clear that it belongs to the people and the government is not to violate it. I'll repeat. Our founders purposely placed the power of the grand jury in the Bill of Rights to make it clear that it belongs to the people, we the people, and the government is not, okay? Not, that means no. That means stop. That means don't. Is not to violate it. It is the ultimate power of the people which allows them to consent or not to the actions of the servant government. It also prevents the government from unrighteous prosecutions by forcing the government to seek permission from the people before criminal charges can be filed. If people refuse, it cannot go forward. By understanding this principle, it becomes clear that the government has no authority to control your behavior. I'll repeat, again, this is out the common law. This is common sense, people, common sense. By understanding this principle, it becomes clear that the government has no authority to control your behavior, and therefore, neither do legislators without your consent. Okay? Roger that? Perfect. All right. And the Declaration of Independence says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governments. And I am in sui juris status, in proprio persona. I do not consent. Su juris, not legally disabled, okay? All right. And I'll continue. All men decide whether or not they want to participate in the institutions of men or not. The United States Supreme Court confirmed this when they said, every man is independent of all laws except those prescribed by nature. He is not bound by any institutions formed by his fellow men without his consent. I just read that and it was so powerful, I just had to read it again. All right, moving right along here, people. All right, I actually want to scroll down to some other, okay, I want to scroll down to here. The real law, okay, pay attention, please. Common sense, common sense. Let's use our brain. Put on your caps. Hello, McFly. The real law. The common law is the real law, the supreme law of the land. The codes, rules, regulations, policy, and statutes are not the law. Legislative statutes enforced upon the people in the name of law is fraud, okay, fraud. And my computer's done, so let me grab this cord really fast so we can continue. Really fast. Back at it again. All right, here we go. I'll repeat. The real law. The common law is the real law, the supreme law of the land. The code, rules, regulations, policy, and statutes are not law. Legislative statutes enforced upon the people in the name of law is fraud and has no authority and is without mercy. Justice without mercy is godless. I repeat, justice without mercy is godless and therefore repugnant to our United States Constitution. Lawmakers were given authority by the people to legislate codes, rules, regulations, and statutes, which are policies, procedures, and law to control the behavior of the bureaucrats, okay? The bureaucrats, elected and appointed officials, municipalities and agencies, but were never given authority to control the behavior of the people, we the people, as we read in the US Supreme Court decision. All laws, rules, and practices which are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. I repeat, all laws, rules, and practices which are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. They do not exist. It's fraud. That's Marbury versus Madison. Also, when you try to memorize these Supreme Court cases, definitely include the court case, meaning Marbury versus Madison. All laws, rules, and practices which are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. Marbury versus Madison. Boom. Say no more. Say no more. All right, legislators simply do not have the authority to rule make. Pay attention. Where rights secured by the Constitution are involved, there can be no rulemaking or legislation which would abrogate them. Period. That's Miranda versus Arizona. God breaks down the law as follows, and Jesus answered him. The first of all the commandments is, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind and with all thy strength. This is the first commandment. And the second is, namely this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. There is none other commandment greater than these, okay? There's 2 commandments, those are the first 2. That's a little debate. People are like, oh, it's 10 commandments. They'd be like, but it's only really 2. But honestly, for real, these 2 are the main 2 of the commandments. If anything else you don't take from the commandments, take out these 2, because this is what it is, especially this one. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. There is no other commandment greater than those. Facts. Let that marinate, because we need more love. People just be doing, just gotta stop. Although it is a sin punishable only by the judge of the universe to break the commandment to love in your mind, words and deeds, it does not become a crime punishable by man until your words and deeds are expressed in the action that injure another. Thomas Jefferson said, I would rather be exposed to the inconveniences attending too much liberty than those attending too small a degree of it. I love that. That's very powerful. I'll repeat it. I would rather be exposed to the inconveniences attending too much liberty than those attending too small a degree of it. And how I take that as I'd rather sit here and stand up and fight for my liberty as much as I can compared to y'all just sitting there and getting beat up on the head every day. Like you need to do something. I'd rather do something than to not do nothing. I'd rather fight for my liberty than to have my kids, excuse me, not kids, no baby goats, my children and my children's children and my children's children. Like somebody got to break the cycle. Someone needs to break the cycle, period. Stop being scared. Rights and sovereignty. Only people are sovereign and have rights. Bureaucrats in their capacity are not sovereign and have no rights. They have authority given by the people. They get their authority from us, me, us, we, the people. They have authority given by the people and are subject to the statutes. The state cannot diminish rights of the people. That's Hurtado versus the people of the state of California. Good old Cali. All right, and I'll read along. The assertion of federal rights, Bill of Rights, when plainly and reasonably made, is not to be defeated under the name of local practice. Davis versus Wechsler. Where rights secured by the Constitution are involved, there can be no rulemaking or legislation which would abrogate them. That's Miranda versus Arizona. There can be no sanction or penalty imposed upon one because of this exercise of constitutional rights. That's Scherer versus Colin. Sovereignty itself is, of course, not subject to law, for it is the author and source of law. Yickwo versus Hopkins, 18 US 356, To deprive the people of their sovereignty, it is first necessary to get the people to agree to submit. Okay, so the only reason that they can take something from you is because you agreed to it, quote unquote, is what they're saying. To deprive the people of their sovereignty, it is first necessary to get the people to agree to submit to the authority of the entity they have created. This is done by getting them to claim they are citizens of that entity. See the Constitution for the US. Amendment 14 for the definition of a citizen of the United States. Again, I personally am not a 14th Amendment citizen. I personally don't even go past the 10th Amendment. It starts at we the people and it ends at we the people. 1:10. And yeah, I'm more American, so don't denationalize me. All right, so then it says license and liberty. And I'm not gonna read that, but I will read this, remedy for every injury. Every right when withheld must have a remedy, and every injury, its proper redress. That's William Blackstone. So for every injury, there must be a remedy. So if somebody get hurt, we have to be able to fix this. We have to be able to resolve this. There has to be a remedy. All right. I'm actually gonna scroll down and I just want to read off really fast. Court. The court belongs to the sovereign, plaintiff, people. That's Black Law's Dictionary, 5th edition, page 318 defines a court as the person in suit of the sovereign, the place where the sovereign sojourns with his regal retinue, wherever that may be. In the US Supreme Court case, Isbell versus Stovall, the court was defined as an agency of the sovereign created by its directly or indirectly authority under its authority, consisting of one or more officers established and maintained for the purpose of hearing and determining issues of law, in fact, regarding legal rights and alleged violations thereof, and applying the sanctions of the law, authorized to exercise its powers in the court of law at times and places previously determined by lawful authority. Judicial notice, or knowledge upon which a judge is bound to act without having it proved in evidence. Okay, put them on judicial notice. They know judicial notice. It's knowledge upon which a judge is bound to act. They are bound. They have, scopes of practices. They cannot hop outside of certain scopes of practices and boxes, which they do out of fraud. But that's why we, the people, need to bring them back in their boxes and let them know there's boundaries here. Like, this is my square. Do not enter unless I give you authority. If I do not consent for you to enter my square, back up. Period. Take judicial notice that judges are bound to obey the American Jurisprudence book. Judges sworn to obey. Since the Constitution is intended for the observance of the judiciary as well as other departments of the government, and the judges are sworn to support its provisions, the courts are not at liberty to overlook or disregard its commands. All right. They can't just keep moving forward once you said stop. If I said don't touch me, then don't touch me. If there's, like, you don't have no reason to touch me if there's no inter party. Like, I didn't touch you, why are you touching me? That's molestation. The courts are not at liberty to overlook or disregard its commands or counteract evasions thereof. It is their duty in authorized proceedings to give full effect to the existing Constitution. Okay, they have to give, this Constitution supersedes these statutes, policies, and codes, de facto human trafficking courts, and obey all constitutional provisions irrespective of their opinion. Okay, you can't use that opinion. You have to use the law. As to the wisdom of the desirability of such provisions and irrespective of the consequences, Thus it is said that the court should be in our alert to enforce the provisions of the United States Constitution and guard against their infringement by legislative fiat or otherwise in accordance with these basic principles. The rule is fixed that the duty in the proper case to declare a law unconstitutional cannot be declined and must be performed in accordance with the deliberate judgment of the tribunal before which the validity of the enactment is directly drawn into question. If the Constitution prescribes one rule and the statute another in a different rule, it is the duty of the courts to declare the Constitution and not the statute. Okay, again, Constitution always going to override, it's always going to supersede, governs its cases before the judgment. And that is American Jurisprudence 16 AM. Again, law of the land. This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding, null and void, does not exist. All right. I'm just scrolling down. I'm actually just going to read a few more. I want to read. What did I want to read? I want to read the general rule because this is important. These are trigger words, like really good trigger words. The general rule is that an unconstitutional statute, whether federal or state, though having the form and name of law, is in reality no law, but is wholly void and ineffective for any purpose, since unconstitutionality dates from the time of its enactment and not merely from the date of the decision, so branding it. An unconstitutional law in legal contemplation is as inoperative as it had never been passed. Such a statute lives a question that it purports to settle, just as it would be had the statute had never been enacted. No repeal of any enactment is unnecessary, since an unconstitutional law is just void. The general principle follows, and it imposes no duty, confers no rights, creates no office, bestows no power of authority on anyone, affords no protection, and justifies no acts performed under it. A contract which rests on an unconstitutional statute creates no obligation to be impaired by subsequent legislation. Facts. This is fact. No one is bound to obey an unconstitutional law. I'll repeat. No one is bound to obey an unconstitutional law. No courts are bound to enforce it. No courts are bound to enforce it. No courts are bound to enforce it. Persons convicted and fined under a statute subsequently held unconstitutional may recover the fines paid. A void act cannot be legally inconsistent with a valid one, and an unconstitutional law cannot operate to supersede an existing valid law. Indeed, insofar as a statute runs counter to the fundamental law of the land, it is superseded thereby. Since an unconstitutional statute cannot repeal or in any way affect an existing one, if repealing statute is unconstitutional, the statute which it attempts to repeal remains in full force and effect. And where a statute in which it attempts to repeal remains in full force and effect, and where a clause repealing a prior law is inserted in the act, which act is unconstitutional and void. The provision of the repeal of the prior law will usually fall with it and will not be permitted to operate as repealing such prior law. And again, the general principles stated above apply to the Constitution as well as the laws of several states, insofar as they are repugnant to the Constitution and laws of the United States. Something to remember. All right. I want to go over this really fast in regards to immunity and the lack thereof. No immunity, the right of action created by statute relating or deprivation under color of law of a right secured by the Constitution and the laws of the United States and come claims which are based solely on statutory violations of federal law and apply to the claim that the claimants have been deprived of their rights in some capacity to which they were entitled. Very key. I love this one. It's Owens versus Independence. Write it down. Write it down. Store it. Don't lose it. Keep it. All of that. All right. And again, I'm not going to go over this whole thing itself. I am going to scroll down to some quotes, and I'm just going to leave you guys with that for now. Again, I also recommend that you do your own studies. It's only 48 pages. Honestly, you could probably go over this like an hour or two, like depending upon, you know what I'm saying? But definitely read this, I would say, go over it. Again, it's common law and it's common sense. And unfortunately, common sense is not as common anymore. And we need to get back to that. We need to get back to common sense. It's got to stop. So again, you can find this online. And you can even purchase it on Amazon.com. All right, so I'm just gonna read a few. All right, so the worship of God is a duty. That's Benjamin Franklin. The fate of unborn millions will now depend under God. On the courage of this army, our cruel and unrelenting enemy leaves us only the choice of brave resistance or the most abject submission. We have therefore to resolve to conquer or die. It's your option. We got to conquer or we're going to die. George Washington. I am sure that there was never a people who had more reason to acknowledge the divine interposition in their affairs than those of the United States. And I should be pained to believe that they have forgotten that agency, which was so often manifested during our revolution, or that they failed to consider the omnipotence of God, who is alone able to protect them. George Washington. Only a virtuous people are capable of freedom. As nations become corrupt and vicious, they have a need of masters. Benjamin Franklin. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. That's John Adams, excuse me. All right, there's a few more I want to read. Okay. Nothing can contribute to true happiness that is inconsistent with duty, nor can a course of action conformably to it be finally without an ample reward. For God governs, and he is good. Alhamdulillah, all praises, glory to God. Happiness, whether in disposition or democracy, whether in slavery or liberty, can never be found without virtue. Facts. All right. And I'm actually going to end at this page 43. It cannot be emphasized too strongly or too often that this great nation was founded not by religionists, but by God's children. God's children. Not on religions, but on the gospel of Jesus Christ. For this very reason, peoples of other faiths have been afforded asylum, prosperity, and freedom of worship here. Patrick Henry. It is the duty of every man to render to the Creator such homage. Before any man can be considered as a member of civil society, he must be considered as a subject of the government of the universe. Ooh, James Madison. All right, and I'll stop here. We have staked the whole future of American civilization, not upon the power of the government, far from it. We have staked the future of all our political institutions upon the capacity of mankind for self-government, upon the capacity of each and all of us to govern ourselves, to control ourselves, and to sustain according to the 10 commandments of God. That's James Madison. No smoke, I was gonna start doing sign language. Y'all like, what are you saying? Oh, another video. All right, and again, I'm gonna actually stop there. This was actually just gonna be a quick video on Common Law Handbook. And with that being said, hold on, I'm kind of new to this. How do you end it? And with that being said, all right, let's see, I'm gonna stop sharing. Oh, there we go. Hey, look at me. All right, so with that being said, that's it for now. I'm actually going to be doing quite a few more videos really, really soon. So don't go too far. I don't know where you stay, but just don't go too far. Other than that, peace and love, and energy, free baby Ashe. I know you guys are wondering what's going on with the baby. I will be giving you guys an update really, really soon. So again, don't go too far. I'll be doing more videos really, really soon. I don't know if y'all knew I broke my leg, so my leg is fine. My leg's not broke anymore, so I'm back at it again. Back at it again. Baby time, baby time, baby time. Gotta get baby back. Baby's gonna be home. Watch. Don't believe me, just watch. Bible. Other than that, energy. Please donate. I believe my Cash App. Feel free to donate, subscribe, hit the like, leave a comment. Hey, y'all be trolling though too, and stop trolling with no facts. So I wish y'all, if y'all troll me, at least troll with facts. But y'all just be like, she's lying. I'm like, but how? Like, this is online information. It's Black Laws Dictionary. I didn't write it. I just read it to you. So how am I lying? Like, if y'all gonna troll, intellectually troll me, like I can do an intellectual troll. But when y'all just be saying stupid stuff, like it's next. I think that's it for now. All right, well, peace and love. Thanks again for tuning in. Namaste, peace and love, Islamism, free baby Ashe. Hit the like, and until next time, peace, energy. Peace and love.